everyone, and welcome back to Chronos Plays Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. Today, we're still on trial, and we're gonna see if the victim left behind a message. It has to be the red dots, right? This message from the deceased is already in our possession. Mr. Wright! Will you stop at nothing to prove my sister a murderer? And it's not really, it's like manslaughter, I think. Accidental. Do not be mistaken, Miss Sky. Our purpose is not to accuse them of any crime. There is only one thing we seek, the truth. No matter how painful it may be. Now then, Mr. Wright, please show us the piece of evidence that conveys the message from the deceased. So, like, it's gotta be this, right? Hopefully it's not like in Japanese, because I will not be able to guess this, and I'll have to look it up again. This is the message left by the deceased. This is the Blue Badger from before, right? Oh, is he going to just speak the killer's name? If that thing could, I'm sure it would. Looks like everyone's forgotten this is just a jar. Ah, my god, I'm gonna smash this vase over your goddamn head. A message left here, on the surface of this vase. What do you mean? If you look closely, you can see a faint trail of blood on this vase. It looks like someone wiped the blood away. Yes, but notice, for some reason, the blood on some of the fragments was not wiped away. Yes, there's a line there, drawn in blood. So what you're saying is this, these dots were once lines. Prosecutor Marshall did not die instantly. He used the few precious moments he had left to leave behind a message. One that someone apparently wiped away. But blood must have seeped into the jar before the lines changed directions. Precisely so. All we need to do is connect these dots. Can't we just use a luminol fluid? The victim message will become apparent. No! Mr. Wright, what kind of message did the victim leave us? Your Honor, I believe these bloodstains will reveal to us the answer. We've got to connect these dots to make letters. There's only one thing the victim would have written, given the circumstances. His murderer's name. I'm gonna assume it's in English. At least it goes yellow when I can do something, right? Hey. Oh, I don't need to do that one? Sure. That's like kindergarten. Is this right? Yeah. Present! It's a defense's attorney's duty to prove their client's innocent. That's why all I've been thinking about is saving Lana. After all my efforts, I never thought it would turn out like this. Emma. So this is the final message Prosecutor Marshall left behind. Of all people, she may not have meant it, but in the end, the one who took the victim's life was Emma Sky. See, Worthy? Can't say I didn't warn you. Chief Gant, do you understand the implication of what you've done? What? What are you talking about? 2 years ago, Joe Doc was sentenced to death. He was convicted because of his final murder. I believe you were the prosecutor in the case, were you not? Yeah, Worthy. Because of you, an innocent man was sentenced to death. Not only that, but you used forged evidence to ensure his conviction. Objection! Yeah, objection. But Joe Doc really was a serial murderer. That was undeniable. I'm afraid that's not important. Didn't you know? We aren't defenders of justice. I mean, yes you are. You're supposed to be. What? We're merely keepers of the law. Sentencing a man to death is no light matter. Even if there wasn't any cover-up or evidence, ultimately, the responsibility falls on the prosecutor in the charge. Even if he was given falsified evidence from you guys? Despite what anyone may say, the fact cannot be denied. What's going on at the prosecutor's office? They might have sent an innocent man to his death. But how can he just stand there like it wasn't his fault? Order! 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 This is order! The gavel's pounding fell on deaf ears. Unable to settle the crowd, the judge declared a recess. Where this trial is headed, no one knows. To be continued. Today! I mean, I just saved, so... I guess I'll save again. Not gonna lie. No. Here. Just in case. Kinda expecting to finish up this trial today. I swear to God, if there's a fourth part, like a fourth day, we'll just get to the end. It's like, due to the complications of this trial, we're gonna add another day. Sorry, Edgeworth. I didn't mean to get you in trouble. Don't worry about it. This is my problem, not yours. Hope I'm not interrupting anything, pals! Oh, guess I am! I'll come back later! Wait, Detective Gumshoe, what is it? You got a lot of nerve, pal, making a detective run all around town while on duty? On top it off, you call me here. I've seen happy people at a funeral. I take it Lana's having you run errands again? Let me tell you, this is the last time, pal. Evidence law. Here, she asked me to give you this if there was a break in today's trial. Evidence law? Edgeworth was talking about this just the other day. You must know the 2 rules of evidence. Rule 1, no evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. Is that right, Mr. Wright? No. Seems so. You could at least study some evidence law, really. The chief prosecutor also wanted me to give you a message. A message? He said if you're planning to take him on, you're going to need this book. Him. I guess I'll need to give this book a thorough read. Alright, should I read that now? You want to go read that now? Let's go read that now. Check. Rule number 1, no evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. Rule 2, unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case. Oh, and that's it! Okay, yeah, no, that's it. That's all the rules for submitting evidence there are. Thanks, Lana. Doesn't look like the book will do any good now, though. All that's left now is the chief prosecutor's sentence. That's where you're wrong, detective. Huh? Haven't you figured it out yet? Why am I still sitting in the prosecutor's seat, despite all these allegations being thrown at me? Mr. Edgeworth! The real trial today hasn't begun yet. What? What else is there to do? Your credibility has all been but ruined with this forged evidence you were unaware of. Emma Sky found out she was unwittingly causing a man's death, and now you're telling me you want to do more? You gotta be kidding me, pal! You're missing the point, Detective. Lana didn't murder Detective Goodman. She merely stuck a knife into his dead body. That means the real killer is still out there. What? And we're going to expose him. No matter what it takes. This case has hurt too many people. It's time to bring it to an end. Yeah? Court will now reconvene for the trial of Miss Lana Sky. Miss Edgeworth. Yes, Your Honor. The inquiry committee is planning to impose harsh penalties on you for your actions. Thank you for the news, Your Honor. Yes, well, normally this is where the prosecution calls forth a witness, but, cough cough. This isn't easy to say. You see, there's some concern that you, Mr. Edgeworth, may have, struck a bargain. You think I may have manipulated the witnesses? I didn't say that. It's just, you see, everyone has been talking and... Very well, Your Honor. I have a solution. A solution? That being the case, the prosecution will allow the defense to call forth all further witnesses. What? But there's no precedent for what you're proposing. Undeniably, this is an unusual arrangement, but a very effective one. It would prove that I haven't struck any deals with the witnesses. Well, Mr. Wright, what do you say? Yeah? Unbelievable. Edgeworth has found a way to continue the trial. Very well. The defense accepts the prosecution's proposal. And it's settled. The defense may now call forth the next witness. Can't the defense call witnesses to the stand? Like witnesses to defend their stuff? I thought. Mr. Wright, you do realize this is your last chance. If you call the wrong witness, the trial is as good as over. The defense calls... Time's finally come to bring out the real murderer. Oh, so it's you? Officer Meekins? No. Damon Gant. The defense calls Damon Gant to the stand. Damon Gant? What does he have to do with anything? As a defendant's partner 2 years ago, Mr. Gant has first-hand knowledge of the crime. I feel we should hear what he has to say about it. As luck would have it, he should still be in the courthouse. Well, he would also be the least likely to have been manipulated by me in any way. Wouldn't you agree, Your Honor? True. All right, bailiff, please escort Mr. Gant to the stand. Witness, please state your name and occupation. What is this, some kind of practical joke? I was just on my way to lunch. Your name and occupation, sir. Worthy, are you sure you want to do this? Name and occupation. So, you want to play hardball, huh? Please, Mr. Gant. Fine. My name is Damon Gant. I'm the acting chief of police. Now then, Mr. Gant, or Chief Gant, the court requests to hear your testimony. Oh, righto! What's with the grim face? First, let's clear up this SL9 incident, or SL9. Oh, you mean the time when Lana's sister murdered that prosecutor? I personally think it's been made pretty clear already. There are still some things unaccounted for. Oh, like what? Like the role you played in all this. Son, either you're very brave or very foolish. You are aware, of course, that a police chief has all kind of weapons at his disposal. Weapons? Sure. Take my testimony, for example. I don't have to give it if I don't want to. What? Is that true? I'm afraid so. That seems corrupted as all fuck. The chief of police has the right to refuse testimony. Of course, such an action carries with it certain risks. Oh, don't worry. I'm not here to hinder your trial. Just remember, if this turns out to be a big waste of time, don't say I didn't warn you. Very well. The witness may begin his testimony. SL9 incident. As I recall, Na and I were questioning him that day. To make a long story short, we slipped up. That power outage didn't help either. When I went to my office, I found Lana there. Apparently she had already arranged the crime scene. So as you can see, I had nothing to do with the forgery. That was quick rearranging. Is that when Doc was arrested? He was laying on the floor unconscious. So what? Was Niall gonna, stab an unconscious man? And then Emma stopped him thinking it was Dark? When Emma said Niall flying, it seems Dark bumped his head. I see. Everything seems pretty clear-cut. If the police chief has the right to refuse to testify, then I better hit him hard and fast. Okay. So what, should I not press him on everything? Because I'm gonna press him on everything. As I recall, a ceremony was held at the police department that day. Yeah, that's right. I guess you could say I'm a workaholic. After winning his reward, Niall was all fired up too. That's probably what spooked Dark and made him run away like that. Was the defendant, Lana Skye, also present in the room? I don't quite remember. At the very least, she wasn't there when Dark ran for it. Okay. So the two of you ran immediately after him, right? That's right, but Dark made it to the elevator first, so now I'm not split up. He went upstairs and I went downstairs. I guess you could say he got lucky. And what's this about a power outage? Oh, that! The elevator stopped all of a sudden and I got the shock of my life. Well, probably not as shocked as now it was when that knife went into his heart, though. That's not funny. Yeah, that's not funny. You shouldn't be saying that, in court, on the stand. Could you tell us what you saw? It was a shocking sight. Now, and that serial killer lying in a heap on the floor, all tangled up. Dark was also lying collapsed on the floor. Yeah, apparently he hit his head and was knocked out. Next to them were those two poor girls, Lana and Emma. Lana was cradling them in her arms. Looking back at it now, she must have already known what her sister had done. How can you know that? Because of the victim's body. It had already been moved. So that means... You found the body near Lana's desk. That's right. I think you said earlier, it was my suit of armor that really stabbed the prosecutor? Yeah. Anyway, as you can see, I had nothing to do with the forgery. So you're saying that the forgery had already taken place by the time you arrived at the office? That's exactly what I'm saying. I can understand how Lana must have felt, but moving a body and hiding evidence are inexcusable no matter what the circumstances. Is that how it really went down? Staring at the witnesses won't help you do any good, Mr. Wright. If you're going to stare at anything, you'd be better off staring at the court record. Worthy, always the smooth talker. But which piece of evidence ties Gant to the murder or forgery? Lana did admit to forging the evidence. Okay, there's the cloth with Emma's fingerprints on it, and then there's the piece of vase we found in his safe. So it's one of those. So it's either this or this. They both should be fine, right? Because we both found them in his locker. Well, the music shut off. You claim you had nothing to do with the forgery, but I'm afraid that is a claim you can't back up. Explain yourself. Several pieces of evidence were found in your office. Take this jar, for example. It looks very much like a vase. That's the blue badger you showed us earlier. A piece of this vase was discovered in your office. Not only that, but the evidence list, oh yeah, this too, I presented earlier, was actually found inside your desk. It was found where? You see, Chief Gant, these articles of evidence uncovered in your office are both concrete proof that you also played a part in the illegal investigation. Chief Gant, what's the meaning of this? Oh, here's a defense attorney who may even rival Worthy. So you admit to it, then, that you were involved in the forgery? Who, me? Or do you mean you? Me? Why would I have anything to do with that? Well, you were the one who snuck into my office when you found this evidence. Prosecutors aren't the only ones capable of forged evidence, you know. Defense attorneys can do so too. Isn't that right, Righto? However, Detective Gumshoe was present during the investigation. Worthy, my boy. Not even detectives are exempt from the law. Rest assured, Dick will receive his due punishment. What? If Detective Gumshoe's salary drops any further, he'll end up paying to work. Pretty sure he was fired, dog. And I think he's starting to throw him in jail. Yes, well, in light of the detective's presence, please give us your testimony regarding these pieces of evidence found in your office, and in their relation to the forgery that took place in the crime scene. My. Kids these days no longer know how to put two and two together. Let's see, what was it now? A jar fragment and a list. For all I know, you could have planted them in my office. Anyways, you can't prove when those pieces of evidence were discovered. If they were found after Dark was convicted, then they're worthless. There's no reason I participated in a forgery. Rearranging the crime scene wouldn't help me out in any way. Okay, Mr. Wright? Yes, Your Honor? When investigating the crime scene, you should have been more careful to observe protocol. Yeah, no shit. Like throughout the entire game, we should have done that. You do understand that I'm the chief of police, right? There will be consequences. Oh. Ooh. Indeed, I believe I will press charges so you won't make the same mistake again. My apologies, Chief, but would you mind waiting until tomorrow for that? Today is, well, you know. All right, Uggy. In return, though. I know. That place, right? Huh? Are these guys telepathic? So, I guess... press? I appreciate it if you'd stop making those ridiculous allegations. Yes, you do have a point. You wouldn't have the guts to do something like that. What? I'll have you know, back in the day, I once broke into a cattle ranch and tipped... Mr. Wright, what are you saying? Anyways, you can't prove you didn't carry in the evidence, can you? You have to... if you have proof to contrary, you're going to need it later. Later? What are you talking about? What else? I'm talking about when Rhino prints are found. Yes, if they're found inside my safe, that would prove this investigation was illegal. I've never faced anyone as slimy as this guy. No, actually, to be fair, though, he is right. It wasn't like... he kind of went in there... I mean, no, actually, this was probably the most legal investigation we'd done, because we had a detective, didn't we? I mean, sure, it was Gumshoe. But still, this actually was the most legal investigation we've ever done. Anyways, you can't prove when those pieces were discovered. What do you mean by that? This is all purely hypothetical, of course, but suppose I did place those items in my safe. Such an act wouldn't necessarily constitute forgery. In concealing evidence found at the crime scene isn't forgery. I'm not through speaking yet, Mr. Rhino. It all depends on when the evidence was discovered. Are you saying that this jar fragment wasn't discovered in the initial investigation? It would appear not. After all, it wasn't listed in the evidence list. For all we know, it could have suddenly materialized the day after dark was sentenced. Oh, and wouldn't that be convenient? Right. The Chief is talking about a possibility, so long as you can't rule that out. Your remarks, however, clever they may be, will only succeed in wasting time. Think about it. How can you look me in the eye and say that? Because I'm innocent. Remember, who was it who murdered Niall? I'm not sure I care for the word murder here, but in the end, the person responsible for Mr. Marshall's unfortunate demise was Emma Skye. Well, now do you see? Yeah, murder definitely would not be the word to use for that. Really, Chief Gant. At the very least, there is a very large benefit you reap from all this. Oh, I wasn't aware. What is this benefit? That would be, of course, the position you have. Chief of Police. Oh. The resolution of the SL9 incident secured your promotion to Chief. That itself is a sufficient motive. Ho, ho, ho! Oh, that's a good one. Do you really think I'm that incompetent? Yes. What do you mean? Even without the case, I was already in line to become the next chief. The resolution of the SL9 merely sped up the inevitable a little. Is that true, Edworth? Yes, he was going to be made chief anyways. Gah! Be careful when pointing that finger, or you might wind up being the one pointed at. So that means there's only one possible motivation for you to commit forgery. If you didn't do it for yourself, then you did it for someone else. Don't be silly, Worthy. You know me better than that. There are only 3 people that I look out for. Me, myself, and I. There, it's out in the open now. Udgy, would you mind if I change my testimony a little? By all means, we do. I wouldn't be anyone's accomplice if there was nothing in it for me. Okay. Nothing in it for you. Sorry, but the only person I care about is yours truly. That girl, Lana's little sister, was it? If you think I felt sorry for her, you better think again. You're right. You don't feel sorry for anyone. Be tough on crime and tough on people. That's how I was raised. You seem to be lax enough on yourself, though. Ho ho ho! Oh, that's a good one, Worthy. Could have been something in it for him? Given his selfishness, would he have helped someone out? Point out accomplice. True, you might not help out anyone for their sake, but if it would benefit you, you might decide to assist someone. Mr. Wright, it appears you're positively determined to portray the Chief as a nice man who likes to lend people a hand. That's not what I mean. Very well then. Who is this person you believe Chief Gant maybe helped forge evidence? I mean, it's gotta be Lana, right? Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye, the defendant. I believe it's quite obvious in light of the circumstance. Emma Skye fell victim to an unfortunate series of events. Who would want to help her more than her own sister, Lana? As for Chief Gant, he would also have a reason to help Lana if she asked him to. That reason, of course, is self-profit. Self-profit? What do you mean? After the SL9 incident was resolved, Lana Scott was appointed Chief Prosecutor of the Prosecutor's Office. The person who arranged this job change was you, Chief Gant. But how would he profit from all this? He would be able to use the Chief Prosecutor as his puppet. Essentially, he would acquire unchecked authority. He would acquire unchecked authority over all investigations. Do you mean to tell me that despite the Chief's formidable appearance, he plays with puppets? That was a good one. I like it. Oh, you were serious? You're a goddamn idiot. Oh, wait. You must mean puppet as in someone forced to do his bidding. Never mind. Admit it, Chief. You assisted Lana Skye in forging evidence. Your motive to appoint her as Chief Prosecutor so you could control her. Ryder, my boy, you have quite an imagination. Let me ask you something. What? Do you have any proof of this? That I controlled Lana? For example, is Lana testifying that I've done such a thing? Lana. She's keeping quiet to protect Emma. There's no way she'd testify against Gant. I'm afraid without any proof, this all amounts to nothing more. Oh, what about the fingerprints, though? Right? Yeah. I mean, we found fingerprints in the safe. I'm afraid without any proof, this all amounts to nothing more than mere conjecture. Unless, that is also what happened in this incident. Which one would that be? Of course I'm talking about the murder of Detective Bruce Goodman. The Chief Prosecutor has been acting strange throughout this entire trial. Almost as if someone has been controlling her. Worthy, you better watch your tongue. I wouldn't want you to get hurt. Just what do you mean? What he means, Your Honor, is that Chief Gant is involved in the murder of Detective Goodman. Not only that, but the Chief is now making Lana take the rap to cover up his involvement. What? Order, I say order! Mr. Wright, you can't be serious. Huh? This is an affront to the highest ranking officer in our law enforcement agency. The accused chief of police of blackmail and murder. That is impossible. Why? Why is that impossible? Your Honor, I was merely reiterating what Mr. Edgeworth said in an easier to understand language. It's too late, Mr. Wright. There's no turning back for us now. Looks like he's the one who decided to go through with this. Can you prove this, Mr. Wright? That the chief, the high-ranking officer of the law, is involved in this murder? Good question. Regardless of his rank or his title, Chief Gant is just a man. The question is he a criminal? I believe the evidence will tell. I see. Alright then. Let's see what Mr. Wright's got. It better be good. Show us this evidence that Chief Gant ties Chief Gant to the murder. Can I save first? Okay. Well, I mean, to Goodman's murder. So it would be the ID log? Yeah? This is the ID card list. Yes, the one that shows who entered the evidence room on the day of the murder, or the crime. There was one ID on the list we couldn't determine the owner of yesterday. 777s. Sorry, but there's no way you can prove that's my card number. It's your card number. What? How do you know? The safe in the Chief Gant's office required a code to open. A 7-digit code. 7 digits? You don't mean... I'm afraid so, Your Honor. The code was 77777777. The same as the remaining ID card number on that list. Chief Gant. Oh, you entered the evidence room on the day of the crime. And I broke into your office. One is a lot worse than the other. Order, order. Chief Gant, what do you have to say? Nothing. The defense's search of my office was in violation of regulations. And I will demand Mr. Wright be punished to the maximum extent of the law. But right now, this court demands an explanation for you about the use of this ID card. Chief Gant, so you admit it. You entered the evidence room on the day of the crime. What about it? I'm chief of police, whether it's the evidence room or the bathroom. What's the difference? I can go anywhere I want. Tell me, when you entered the room, were you alone? I always go to the bathroom alone, as I do with the evidence room. Detective Goodman wouldn't have happened to be with you that day, would he? Of course not. Why would he be? I hadn't seen him in days. You hadn't seen him in days? Chief Gant, I'm afraid you just undone yourself. On that day, you had to have met with Detective Goodman. What do you mean? This trial's purpose is to determine that Lana is guilty. No, it isn't, Your Honor. This trial's purpose is to determine the truth. If Chief Gant met with the victim on the day of the crime, then we need to determine one thing. What transpired during that meeting? In that case, Mr. Wright, I'm going to have to ask you for evidence. Show us the proof that the victim meant to meet Chief Gant on the day of the crime. Oh? Check. Maybe? No, you didn't finish filling this out. Can only be some... No. I mean, but this is the only... I guess? Detective Goodman lost his ID card on the day of the crime. Oh, to be accurate, Jake Marshall stole it. So Detective Goodman filled out and lost that in his report. He would have had to give that report to the chief of police. Yet you are in the possession of the report, which means you can't be sure he filed it. He filed it. How do I know, you ask? Because he needed to enter the evidence room that day. He needed to? Yes, to transfer the evidence out. Oh. Detective Goodman took the form to you, Chief Gant. Then, you accompanied the detective to the evidence room. Accompanied him? There's no other way the murderer and Detective Goodman could have entered that room. Hold on, let me guess what you're going to say next. Chief of Police murdered poor Goodman? Exactly. But wait, the chief didn't necessarily need to accompany him to the evidence room. He could have just lent him his ID card. Yeah, now that you mention it, I believe I might have done something of the sort. Sorry, but that's not possible. According to the record, your card was only used once. Yet you showed us your ID card earlier. If you had really lent it to Detective Goodman, it would have been found on his body. No! Chief Gant, did you just go Super Saiyan? The murder was most likely a spur-of-the-moment crime, for no one in their right mind would choose the police department as a place to commit murder. After the murder, you contacted Lana at the prosecutor's office. Why? To dispose of Detective Goodman's body, of course. You're forgetting, Mr. Wright. The victim's body was discovered in the prosecutor's office parking lot. How did he manage to move it there? I was in the police department the entire day, you know. And everyone's aware that Lana stayed at the prosecutor's office at the ceremony. Everyone except me, it seems. Still, you're the chief of police. You have an entire police force at your disposal. Oh, you think I just ordered the police officer to do it? Hey you, take this here dead body over to the prosecutor's office. I don't think so. No, you had Edgeworth do it though. Because you gave him the screwdriver. Chief Gant, you left all the evidence we need to prove how you moved the body to the prosecutor's office. And all this time I thought it was a useless clue that just taking up space. how could the chief have moved the body? Mr. Wright, show us this evidence. To move the victim's body, Chief Gant used... Where's that screwdriver? This is how he moves Detective Goodman's body. What's this? A screwdriver? But what does this have to do with this case? Mr. Edgeworth, think back to the day of the crime. What is this screwdriver doing here? It's here because... Ah! I was asked to go. By Chief Gant, no less. He told me he wanted me to keep it here in the prosecutor's office. In any case, on the day of the stabbing, I brought this back here. After the ceremony ended that day, I didn't plan to return to the prosecutor's office, but you did, because Chief Gant asked you to. You mean I... The body was found in the trunk of Mr. Edgeworth's car. I think it's obvious what happened. The body was moved by that car. Detective Goodman's body was carried in the trunk of Mr. Edgeworth's car. Yes, unless, of course, you have another explanation, Chief. Why else would you have asked Mr. Edgeworth to transport evidence from a closed case? There's only one plausible explanation. To transport the body to your accomplice, Miss Lana Skye. Order! What's going on here? Is there no room for rebuttal in the defense's outrageous accusations? Think back to the photograph Miss Starr took of the prosecutor's office. This was not a photo of the body being stuffed in the trunk to be taken away. It was exactly the opposite. It's a photo of a body being taken from the trunk. Chief Gant, please say something! I believe... Your time's up! My time's up? Sorry, Righto, but I'm having lunch with the District Attorney General after this. We have to get going if we're going to make it for the early bird special. But the cross-examination isn't finished yet. Remember what I told you earlier. A police chief has all kinds of weapons at his disposal. Weapons? Like the right to refuse to testify. I'm invoking that right now. What? This is not a right to be casually invoked. There are certain risks to be considered. So you're going to just run away after all this? Run away? Don't make me laugh, Worthy. I stabbed old Goodman? That's what you're saying, right? But if you had any conclusive evidence, you would have presented it by now. Well, You think I had Lana dispose of this body? If so, then show your proof and get it over with. I'll say it again, Mr. Wright. Damon Wright is the current chief of police. This court will not tolerate any accusation against him without concrete proof. I mean, it's pretty, damning proof so far. Well, Mr. Wright, Your Honor, do you have any concrete proof? Proof that Chief Gant murdered Detective Goodman and made Miss Skye dispose of his body? No? Maybe? We'll find out next time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the episode, press like below. If you're not subscribed yet, want to my videos so I can check out some of the content, see if it's to your liking. Once again, thank you for watching. Hope you all have a great day.